The Pentagon also speaking to this today, saying it is confident that a missile shot down the airliner, also offering some details as to what kind of weapon could have been used.
Is a sophisticated piece of technology, and it strains credulity to think that that it could be used by separatists without at least some measure of Russian support and technical assistance.
Let's bring in CTV's Tom Walters joining us out of Washington today. Tom, let's talk about evidence, because we are hearing all sorts of theories, people talking about evidence we haven't necessarily seen. What have we seen, if anything, that has been concrete?
Well, of course, in terms of the crash site itself, there has been a great deal of concern expressed that the evidence on scene has been tampered with, that there's been looting of the site, that there's been easy access to it, that people have been going through there. As you mentioned, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe has people on site there now. But of course, this is a site that's within the territory in Ukraine that is held by the pro-Russian separatists. So it's a crime scene essentially under the control of the prime suspect. That's why there is such a push at the international level for an independent international investigation. In terms of evidence as to the source of the missile, there's intelligence coming from Ukraine today that suggests that they have intercepted phone calls to show that the pro-Russian separatist rebels did indeed have, courtesy of Moscow, a weapon system capable of firing that missile. And that, of course, is one of the things that is going to be a measure of Russian complicity in this. But of course, in the statements that President Obama has made today, and the Pentagon and the U.S. State Department, the message is pretty clear that they see Russia as really the if not the people who pulled the trigger, the ones who were the enablers here, and blame Russian intervention in Ukraine for creating the climate in which this happened.
Tom, you mentioned those intercepted phone calls that the Ukrainian government has. What about this video of apparently the rocket launcher being driven away from the rebel-held territory to the border of Russia?
Yeah, there is video that the Ukrainian government says is surveillance video that they captured of a rocket launcher minus one or two of its missiles. And the question this raises, the suggestion is that this is further evidence of one of those weapon systems being in the hands of the rebels in the region at the time.
All right, so if Russia does get tied to this, because as you said, everybody's kind of pointing the finger, but they're waiting for evidence here, what happens?
Well, I mean, in a sense, Russia is already tied to this, because in terms of the international blame game, certainly the U.S. is very direct, more direct in a way, in blaming Russia for the violence in Ukraine than for blaming the rebels for necessarily pulling the trigger on the missile. Although that's certainly the inference to be drawn from the report today, from Word today, that American intelligence shows the missile coming from inside the separatist-controlled parts of Ukraine. But the message continues to be, I mean, and sanctions, of course, continue to be placed on Russia. The message continues to be that Russia has got to chart a different course in terms of its foreign policy in Ukraine.
All right, we have CTV's Tom Walters out of Washington. Tom, thanks.
Thanks, Morella.